One of the more critically acclaimed subgenres of horror is sci-fi horror. Whether you're talking about the Alien franchise, Event Horizon, or even more recently, A Quiet Place and Nope, these are films that typically involve aliens or interdimensional beings. The fear of the unknown and unfamiliar is one of the biggest fears we as humans have. The successful franchises in this sci-fi horror genre, the ones that are successful, really go ahead and actually center on minimizing something to create tension and or fear. For example, in the first Alien movie, the alien is barely shown in a confined space station. So think about that. The alien that we're going to actually fearing this entire time, we barely even see it. And it's in this confined space. So it's a very minimalistic type of sci-fi horror, but it works with the tension. In Nope, they minimize any narrative and they allow the viewer to really make sense of the situation. They don't really give you a lot of story of why things are happening. You just kind of make it up of why things are happening in your mind. And in A Quiet Place, it's infamous for barely any spoken dialogue in the entire movie, really allowing you to go ahead and actually take in the visuals rather than going and actually processing a lot of narrative or audio. No One Will Save You uses the same minimization of A Quiet Place in using very little dialogue. So little, in fact, is that there's only 2 spoken lines in the entire movie. 2. This movie is a cross of A Quiet Place with Signs. Now, those are some big shoes to fill, and let's dive deeper into exploring this movie to see if it lives up to the hype. Sci-fi horror and psychological horrors are really the only genres that I typically like. The rest of the horror genre is kind of like a hit or miss for me. So, since this is my thing and this is the stuff I want to rock with, I'm going to be the main target audience for this. I always want you to know the perspective of your reviewer just so you can make an educated decision for yourself when you look at, should I take this advice or not? I watch those movies that are exclusive to streaming platforms to see if they're worth your time. I watch so you don't have to. If you like how that sounds, do me a favor, click like, share, subscribe. And now, let's get into this review. No One Will Save You premiered on Hulu in September of 2023. It has a runtime of 1 hour and 33 minutes, and it stars Caitlin Dever as Bran, a recluse young woman who is the main protagonist of the movie. Now, literally everyone else in this movie is a supporting actor. So she is it. If you don't like her as an actress, you're getting a heavy dose of her, so I don't know what else to tell you. But the premise of this movie is an exiled, anxiety-ridden homebody must battle an alien who's found its way into her home. Very simple story. And remember that minimalist aspect that I said, minimalist in this plot, because that really is a plot. So what are the expectations that I have for something like this? First and foremost, when it's a psychological thriller like this and sci-fi, mess with my head a little bit. This has got to be stuff that I got to see some trippy stuff, or I got to see some things that will really mess with my mind, or you go ahead and actually kind of play with the tension aspect of things, kind of keep me on the edge of my seat, so that maybe I am building up stuff in my mind that maybe not even happen. So really go ahead and actually do some things that are going to actually make things subtle, and it doesn't have to be jump scares. It just has to be something that I'm always thinking about. Number 2, have a character that I can go ahead and actually care about. If you're going ahead and actually doing something in sci-fi genre for horror, I gotta have at least one character that I can empathize with and that I care that, if you're in a horror film, hope you survive, and I've got to care about that person. So that's what you got to do for part 2. And then the third thing, you really want to go and actually have great sound and visual effects and this type of thing, because since we're minimizing everything is now amplified. Whatever is spoken, whatever sounds that are happening, whatever visual effects are on there, they're magnified because I'm not hiding behind words or cutaways or anything like that. I am actually having to engage in a full auditory and visual sense. So all that stuff has to be on point. So now we have the expectations and the story. Let me tell you what I kind of surmised. Now, Caitlin Dever as Bran is very good. As I stated before, this movie only has two lines of dialogue. That means that looks, body language, and position, and facial expressions have to be the story for the actor, and she nails it in most scenes. I was right there with her, scared as ever when she was in the house by herself doing various different things. There are times that I pitied her because you're just looking like, oh my God, girl, it's just you. And there's times I balled up my fist at her of like, girl, why are you going ahead and actually doing this? Why aren't you doing this? You know, just kind of like the yell at the screen type of thing. And those are all things that she elicited those emotions because of being drawn into the story. The humans that she's acting against, who are not speaking anything, but they're real people, real world types of things, and acting against, they're getting their thoughts and feelings out in actions and body language and things like that too. They did what they needed to go ahead and actually do, and you actually like or dislike them based off of those. So I think the acting, as far as the interactions that these actors had, even with their minimal dialogue and things like that, it was actually done pretty well. The real telltale sign of this movie was giving us the narrative without words. And I feel I was satisfied in what was conveyed. Now, there was a point where I was going to be frustrated that this movie would be predictable, but it ended a bit differently than I originally thought, and that was good. It subverted my expectations, and I liked that. It wasn't a great ending, but it was satisfying in what we saw throughout the film. Also, the way that the alien was portrayed was typical at first, meaning it's nothing new that we haven't seen before, but, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, there are more than one aliens, and the others that followed were at various levels of creepy and freaky type of anatomy. So the way that we were introduced to more than one alien and the way that that was all conveyed, that went ahead and actually, it stirred some things up. It's not that they were necessarily scary in and of themselves, but they were freaky and creepy the way they looked. It was crazy. I was a fan of the noises and the music that they selected in there. They really wrapped up the tension with what they went and actually did for the sound effects and silence and music and all that kind of good stuff. I think they did a masterful job as far as the sound. And I'm not that big of a person as far as understanding the technicalities of producing sound and sound effects and things like that. But I think that these folks went ahead and actually made it an auditory thing where I'm like, what is going on? Looking around me. I like that aspect of it. The scenes, the shifts from serenity to horror really mess with your mind. And watching with surround sound with no lights on really intensifies this movie a lot. So if you have surround sound system, I would encourage you to turn it on and watch this bad boy, turn the lights off, and it'll really go ahead and actually get at you. The way that this movie is structured was well done, and it was efficient in its 93 minutes of pushing the story forward, giving you tension, and then easing up a little bit, and then going right back into it. So I like the way that this was paced. Some other things about this particular movie. The first alien and encounter had me underwhelmed, but a couple of later scenes, they really go ahead and actually give you kind of like what nightmares are made of. So some of those alien anatomies and creep factors was out there. The effects were pretty good. The darkness really helped cover up any deficient effects on there. For example, there's some things that probably if it was light out, it wouldn't have resonated as much, but because it was dark out, that really helped sell some of the effects and anatomy that was going on there. The ending was curious, but I like the way that it ended from being a definitive ending as a standalone movie, or they could do a sequel if they wanted to. This is one that it serves a dual purpose for that end, and I like that. So I've got all that as my review. Here is the verdict. This is deserving of a playlist watch, meaning for both casuals and mains. I'm going to say add it to your playlist. For everyone, you need to understand that it's kind of like boring for the first 20 minutes, and you have to get through that aspect of it. But it really picks up and transforms from a drama to a psychological thriller to the sci-fi horror that it's going to become around about the 20-minute mark. And it doesn't spell everything out at the end, which most mainstreamers of these kinds of movies love to think over a bit. And I think that's what's really going to work for a main target audience member. It's ambiguous enough that you can go and actually talk about it versus going and actually knowing that that was a definitive end for it. But you could also say that it was a definitive end based off of what we kind of figure out in the movie going forward. So it's a really nice ending that will go and actually open up a little bit of a dialogue. For casuals, they'll want to add to the playlist because it's not gory or overt. There's plenty of subtlety along with the alien aspects that I believe any casual that wants to dabble into this type of genre will be pleased with. And the acting, the sound, the story, and the debatable ending are things that a casual will go ahead and actually want to get down with as well. The only reason why I don't go ahead and put it as a must watch is because of a 93 watch time. There wasn't anything here that was groundbreaking or anything like that. It's not going to be like, oh, it's a must watch, but it is a good watch that if you're trying to find something to watch, especially in the realm of horror, for like October or anything like that, or Halloween time, this is one that's going to give you that subtlety. It's placed in a rural area in the country, set far away apart. That's where you kind of get that science feel to it. Big old house, aliens, all that kind of good stuff. Minimize dialogue. This movie has a lot going for it that I say put it on your playlist and watch it when you can at your leisure. So that's what I have for No One Will Save You, now showing on Hulu. Check it out. You stayed for the entire review. Love you for it. Do me a favor, click like if you kind of like this video. Click subscribe if you really want to see me go and actually do more. And if you got time, check out one of these other videos right here. See if you go ahead and actually like another one of my reviews. But until the next time, I'll holler at you. Take care of yourself.